Chris.
What does Arizona do so well? What are their strengths on this year's team?
I think their strengths is um, uh, offensively, they're really, really athletic in the backcourt, and they have multiple really good posts. Most teams in the league have good rotations of three, like us with J1, JoJo, and um, JV Air. But they're able to rotate four guys that stay at a high level. Um, they're extremely well coached. Their plan is um, is suited for that team. Their speed is a factor. Their transition offense is a factor. Um, they get their hands on a lot of balls and create a lot of loose balls and deflections with their athleticism and their speed. And then all their bigs are good run runners, especially Visar. Uh, the Awaka kid is he's great at his job. Great ducking guy. They drive to duck in. Um, Bradley, Love, KG Lewis, and Delorso. Uh, they've got two alphas. Love and Bradley are both alphas, and they do a great job of playing off each other. Um, Bradley's point guard loves the leading scorer, and he's fearless. He's not afraid of success or failure. Um, and playing at Arizona, they do an awesome job of feeding off that crowd.
Thank you, Chris. We got a Chris Baldwin with Paper City, Houston. Chris, please go ahead with your question.
Hey, Kelvin.
Hey, Chris.
Milo says you even talk about turnovers differently. When you bring a new point guard in, how do you get your message on mistakes across?
Um, so in the off season, starting in June, each day is we try to create purpose in what we're doing starting on Monday with individual workouts. Um, our individual workouts are geared to get better um, based on how you're going to play for us. The shots we're going to get, shots we're looking for, um, the tempo that our workout is, um, the goals and time. Usually everything we do has a goal element and a time element. So it's just not a normal workout. You're always competing against something, whether it's the clock or yourself, but you're always competing against something. So through those many workouts, we're trying to raise their competitive nature. On Tuesday is position workouts. Now you're learning how to either set a screen, use a screen, read a screen, and something we do offensively with screening angles, and then defensively, you're learning how to do your uh, dictates, point of attacks, back pressure, all the things we teach defensively, and then offensively. Wednesdays don't usually do a whole lot on Wednesday. That's mandatory, but our culture kind of takes over on Wednesday, where our older kids kind of show the new guys what we do on our so-called days off. Now Thursday is what we call turnover Thursdays, and this is what you're talking about, Chris. Is That's the only day I stat anything. So we only play 4-on-4. There's really not a lot of structure. We may give them an action to start with, but we put them in teams of four, and it's 4-on-4. So if you score, you stay on. If you get scored on, you come off. But the only thing we're tracking that I'm emphasizing is turnovers. Now we've had some kids have 7 turnovers in one day on turnover Thursdays, but every time you have 3 turnovers, the third turnover, there's uh, an accountability phase kicks in. Uh, you can only imagine what happens when you have 7. But each Thursday that goes by, that 7 becomes 6, that 6 becomes 4, that 4 becomes 3, that 3 becomes 2. And now what they've learned is not necessarily how not to turn it over, is but to make better decisions. Most fouls come because you're out of position and you're fouling your way to get back, and there's a penalty involved. You foul. Um, Turnovers is learning not to get in traffic, so you have to make a bad decision, or it forces you to make a bad decision. So just teaching kids how not to play in traffic, how to hit singles. That's why some years I showed tapes of Tom Brady passing for 350 yards and not completing a pass outside of 5 yards. He throws a screen pass behind the line of scrimmage. The guy runs for 20. He throws one of those 5 yard comebacks. Guy catches it, breaks a tackle, runs for 20. A 5 yard down and out, tiptoes the sidelines, runs for 20. But if you look back, it says he's thrown for 60 yards, but he's only completed um, yards. The yards after catch is where the yardage comes from, but it's his decision. It's a single. Basketball is a simple game. It always has been. It's a game of eliminating mistakes. Most people judge your team on, do you make great plays? If you're not, then you're boring. So just teaching kids how to hit singles and make better decisions helps make us a better team.
Thank you, Chris. We go to Chancellor Johnson, please. Chancellor, please go ahead.
Hey, Kelvin. Arizona obviously has had a history of success. Just being around the game for a long time, for you personally, what kind of comes to mind when you think about the just the program of Arizona and the fact that here comes another really good program into the conference that's already one of the best conferences, if not the best conference in the entire country?
Well, I thought about that a year ago when they came into the league. I knew, it's kind of like getting, anytime a good team comes into the league, I'm sure a lot of the coaches in this league probably thought the same thing when we came into the league. But I go way back with Arizona. I have I think, somewhat of a special relationship with them. We took over a tough situation in Pullman at Washington State, and that was about the time when Coach Lute Olson was getting the basketball program going at Arizona, and he created a monster. It saddens me that there's a generation of kids that will never know what Arizona basketball was with Lute. I was there with Sean Elliott, Steve Kerr, I think it was Anthony Cook, Tom Tolbert, Craig McMillan, Khalid Reeves, Damon Stoudemire, Chris Mills. They were the program. I mean, they set the bar. UCLA had the name, but Arizona had the program. They were the preeminent program on the West Coast. They were the best program in the West. Um, um, I didn't dare strive to be like them. I just wanted to get where we could compete with them. They were so far ahead of. There was only a few teams in the Pac-10 at the time. Mike Montgomery was at Stanford. Of course, UCLA was always good. But there weren't many programs that could touch Arizona for a long, long time. They had great players. They had a great coach. But I think that separated them, that made them so different than any other West Coast school, was their fans. It was it was like being at a Big Ten school fan wise, where most of the Pac-10 schools struggled to get fans to the game. Not Arizona. They have this so many traditions down there. But you know, a lot of the coaches in the league may not know the history of Arizona, but I do. The other thing I remember was how nice Lute and Bobby Olson were to Karen and I. Now we weren't very good. You know, most of the games with Arizona, we were never in them. We just weren't good enough. Um, but through it all, Lute was always nice, and I get, well, he beat you by 50 every game. Everybody, no, it wasn't that. Um, he was just a nice man, and Bobby Olson was a class lady. They showed Karen and I how to be professional. I was 31 years old when I was named the head coach, which tells you a little bit about the program. It's not that I accomplished something. It was just, you know, my first contract at Washington State, I signed a 2-year deal for $82,000. That's $41,000 a year. And I'm sure they thought that that'll give them time to go hire a real coach. Because I certainly didn't deserve to be a head coach in the Pac-10. I was just in the right place at the right time. And going against guys like Coach Olson at Arizona, Coach Miller at Oregon State. Oregon State could play with them when Gary Payton was there. Matter of fact, they beat Arizona when Gary Payton was there. But Arizona, I just always respected Arizona because they were the program when I started out coaching. They were our Duke. They were our North Carolina. They were our Kentucky. That's the level of, that's the shelf that they were on. And you know, there were so many hard lessons I had to learn as a coach. It wasn't just Arizona beat us, everybody beat us. I mean, I had a year where we lost 18 in a row. If in today's climate, with all the platforms for cynicism and negativity and all that stuff that goes on now, I'm sure I would have been fired after my third year, and probably rightly so. I mean, we lost 18 in a row. So, but I have fond memories of Coach Olson and Bobby, and always great respect for Arizona basketball.
Thank you, Chancellor. We'll go to Terrence Harris from the Houston Defender. Terrence, please go ahead.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Hey, Terrence.
Hey, I want to talk to you. I'm working on a story on the NIL and NIL stuff. And I want to talk to you about just how important has that become in the recruiting process? NIL money.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think anybody's that has very talented rosters are not depending on NIL, because a lot of the kids are making good choices on going to programs that fit them, and so they're not taking the best offer. And I think our league reflects that. Our league uses NIL. It's important to us. It's important to every program. There's not a top 20 team or top 25 team in the nation that doesn't use NIL. But, you know, sometimes these kids are judged unfairly because they see it as a money grab. A lot of these kids are making great choices, and are choosing programs that can help their, not their profile, but help their development as players. But it's here now, you know, and if you want to be in the game, you got to play the game. And it starts with NIL.
How do schools, I mean, where's the responsibility with schools in terms of maybe helping them understand, you know, how to deal with the financial situations that come along with this?
It's not the school. It's the
Okay.
basketball program. It starts with the head coach.
Okay.
And his schools don't coach these teams. Coaches do. Schools don't deal with the players. The people that deal with my players are my staff, and that's who they lean on, and we lean on each other. But I've said this many times, Terrence. I think we do a great job here of financial literacy. Most of these kids don't know what credit cards are. They don't know what 1099s are, W-2s, or um, uh, uh, what taxes are, federal tax, state tax, income tax, anything, sales tax. I mean, they're young. I had no idea when I was their age.
Right.
I didn't know, but because the NIL has become such an important part of team building and roster building, I think it's incumbent upon the staffs. I think all the staffs in the country do a great job. I mean, we're certainly not unique in anything here, but it is part of your responsibility to educate these kids and also their families.
Yeah.
You know,
Did,
we do a Zoom call every year with the families to make sure that they understand um, our responsibility, but also understand their responsibility too.
as a longtime coach in this industry, I mean, did you ever see this day coming?
No, but I never saw. I'm old enough, Terrence. I never thought we'd have a shot clock either.
Right.
I was shocked that we had a 3-point line. But you don't sit around and complain or wish for better days. You just strap it on every day and um, try to get better. I accept it. We accepted the NIL as soon as it came out. I think the schools that did not fell behind. Um, so I'm not in a position to critique or say is it good or bad. That's not
Yeah.
important. That's not important how you feel individually. What's important is how you embrace it, and your kids need to know you embrace it too. Um, you don't want to be in a position where you're begrudgingly doing something and then holding this against them. I never talk about NIL to our kids. I coach them
Okay.
the way I coach them the way I've always coached them. Um, how the NIL works with them. We give them advice, but we don't make their decisions. They have to make their own decisions. We talk to their parents because their lives have changed. Most kids in college probably are making more money now than they ever will in their life. So it's important that they save. It's important that they understand that there's a day when this is not going to be there. But that's part of being a father too, is when you have children to give them advice that will help them in the days after they leave you. And you hope that they listen. And I think our kids do.
Exactly. Thank you, Coach.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Terrence. We'll go to Joseph Duarte from the Houston Chronicle, please. Joseph, go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Kelvin.
Good morning, Joseph.
Kelvin, before your program in Arizona entered the Big 12, you had success elsewhere. I'm curious, now that they're in the league and the success that you've had, what are the sort of the difficulties or challenges that present itself going into a new league but at the same time, you're able to have the success you've had and the success in year one that they've also had?
Well, you can talk about culture, but you don't, unless you're in a program, you don't really know what it is. And I wish I could do a better job of explaining it to you, but maybe I'm just limited. Maybe I'm not smart enough to be able to tell you how important it is. I will say this though, Joseph, coaches that don't understand how to build a culture usually don't last long in this business. I think it's the number one thing you have to do. Kids have to have something they can touch and believe in, something that defines why they come every day. Um, Defining something that is bigger than themselves. And then I think the consistency of the person that is driving the culture will tell them whether it's real or not. Um, Arizona's always had a great culture. Started with Coach Olson. Um, I knew Tommy a little bit when he was with Mark. Mark Few and I have been good friends for 30 plus years. Mark and I were good friends when I was at Washington State, and he was an assistant coach for Dan Fitzgerald along with Dan Monson. Dan Monson was one of my assistants on one of the USA teams I was a head coach of. So when Tommy got the job, my first response was, whew, what a great hire. what a great hire. The Arizona people that didn't know him, I knew once they got to know him would be thrilled, because I just think he's high level. And the job he's done at Arizona, if it was done in the Eastern time zone or east of the Mississippi, I think would probably, he would get more credit. But in the coaching profession, you know who the real ones are. And Tommy's a real one. He's got a great staff. Coach Murphy, Coach Robinson, and having that structure and that culture. But the most important thing is talent. You know, Tommy's always been a great recruiter, especially international kids. So all his teams will have a good balance of kids from different places, but he knows how to coach, knows how to build, and kudos for Arizona for giving him an opportunity. He waited a long time for this, and he got one of the best jobs in the country at Arizona. And Arizona wasn't good because they were in the Pac-10. We weren't good because we were an American. Arizona was good because they're good. They can play anywhere, and I always felt we could too.
Kelvin, I'm going to sneak this one in. You've got back-to-back games out there in Arizona. Logistically, travel-wise, did you consider staying out there, or was it just because it's an early game Saturday, you can get back and have a late game Tuesday night where it didn't really present itself to stay out there?
Yeah, I thought about that, and the fact that the game's going to be over at 2 o'clock gives us a chance to get home at a reasonable time. And from 5 o'clock Saturday to 7 o'clock Tuesday night is a long time. I'm very appreciative of our AD working with us that we're able to do that. If we couldn't do it, we would adjust. I didn't think it was that big a deal, but having this opportunity was something I thought could keep us on more of a natural schedule or normal schedule. Doesn't mean you're going to win. I mean, we could play good and lose both these games. But this is what we chose, and we'll do the best we can to get through this. But we've got a game Saturday, got a game Tuesday, come home and play Iowa State Saturday, and just move on down the road.
We'll go to Chris Baldwin again, please. Chris, please go ahead.
Kelvin, how does Caleb Love's ability to hit those extra deep shots test the defense, and what have you seen from him? You guys have been in college for a while now.
He's dynamic. I think that's the best way to describe Caleb. I would say 2 words: dynamic and fearless. What makes him tough, his success as a player doesn't alter anything he does. He plays the same way. And he plays the same way if he's missing shots too. And that to me just reeks of confidence. And it also reeks of the freedom and confidence his coaching staff has in him. He's allowed to make shots and he's allowed to miss shots, and coaches understand that's all part of it. But they've got an inside game that allows them to get a lot of offensive rebounds. So your misses only kill you if you're dependent on your first shot to win a game. But if you can get second and third shots, then that'll balance itself out. But watching him at his best, he's scary. I mean, he's really, really good. And he plays so many minutes, and he's in great shape. He gets downhill. I think where Tommy's helped him a lot is playing in the pick and roll. He's able to hit the roller, whether it's a short roll, a pinch roll, medium roll, long roll. He's learned to play out of these pick and rolls, either behind it, in front of it, down the middle. He's really become a really good basketball player. I think playing for Tommy and that staff has really raised his stock a lot.